This is the elemental test at the Royal Magic Academy, the examination that determines each student's elemental ability and how well they can wield it. The test begins, and the Emperor's daughter herself reveals a light elemental ability of 52%. Next is Seth, one of the Academy's best students. His result shows an elemental control of sand at 71%. But when Cyan's turn comes, everyone freezes in shock. He possesses the rare element of darkness, and at an astonishing 92%. Even the greatest student in the Academy's history only achieved 88% upon graduation. After the test, Cyan quietly returns to his room. But in the hallway, two senior students are waiting. They want to test how strong he really is, and to bully him. Of course, what they don't know is that Cyan has been expecting them. Before they realize what's happening, it's already too late. With a single kick, Cyan sends one of them crashing into the wall. And you may wonder, what kind of mage has such physical strength and speed? The answer is simple. He was a deadly assassin in his past life. Despite facing the continent's most talented squad of knights, Cyan Avert refuses to give up. He is the bastard son of a duke and the most feared assassin on the entire continent. For as long as he can remember, his father tasked him with supporting his legitimate brother from another mother and protecting the honor of their clan. In doing so, he became the hidden catalyst behind Ashwalver's rise to power. He carried out every order without hesitation, taking on all the dirty work. Whether it was aiding Ashel in the imperial succession struggle, eliminating rivals during the Demon King army's invasion, or waging war to unify the continent. Yet, after years of unwavering loyalty, the only reward he received was betrayal. His own brother branded him nothing more than a vile assassin who meddled with the forbidden powers of the mist. Using this as an excuse, Ashwalver conspired to have him eliminated. Cyan couldn't stomach being discarded so easily after sacrificing so much without question. Rage consumed him, and he attempted to strike his brother down before he ended up dying. But against this cheap imitation of Gilgamesh, he stood no chance and was cut down. This was never how he envisioned his life ending. Then, a miracle occurred. He opened his eyes and found himself back in the past. And the very first person he saw was Emily, the maid he hadn't laid eyes on in 20 years. His eyes scanned the room. It's definitely the past. He remembers this moment clearly. It's 27 years ago, the year 985, 1 year before he enters the academy. Every year, the duchy hosts a training duel. And this year, Duke Vert, the current head, and their father will be watching. Today's opponent? His half-brother, Cranvert. They're the same age, but Cran is the son of Margaret Oz, the Duke's wife, which meant all the attention went to him. Even though he was just as young, being born to a different woman made all the difference. After this duel, he becomes the butt of every joke in the family. This match is why their father stopped even acknowledging him. The maid quietly urges him to back out before getting hurt. He ignores her and draws his rapier. The weight of the weapon catches him off guard. His strength really is that of a child. It doesn't feel like a dream. There's no illusion magic at play here. He accepts it. This is real. He's back. Cran sneers and mocks him, wondering why he hasn't run off yet. The Duke signals for the match to begin. His opponent lunges immediately, but Cyan's eyes catch the movement. It's sluggish, obviously. He dodges without much effort. A quick twist of the wrist knocks the blade aside. He kicks a leg out, sending crowns crashing to the ground. The Duke watches, mildly entertained, while Margaret stares in horror. A single thrust to his throat would end the match and give him victory. But he hesitates. Winning isn't enough. In his previous life, Cran made him miserable for fun. Now that he has the upper hand, he might as well crush that smug attitude for good. In this new life, he's done being anyone's servant. He'll carve out his own path on his terms. He drives his boot into Cran's face over and over until he blacks out, earning the win by knockout. Once the duel ends, he is summoned to meet with the Duke. A high-ranking knight escorts him through the halls toward the chamber. Just before they arrive, he spots Margaret stepping out of the office. A crooked grin tugs at his lips. She's clearly just finished ranting about her precious son. He throws a casual jab asking if Cray is holding up all right. Her expression twists with fury, and she snaps, demanding how he dares that concerned after what he did out there. He brushes past her like she's air, muttering that that's how duels work, But she's not about to let that go. Loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, she spits that this is exactly why illegitimate brats like him shouldn't be treated like real heirs. Then she takes it further, insulting his mother and claiming he should be graveling in alleyways for scraps. She hisses that he had no business fighting at all. The words sink in and his jaw tightens. Her venom finally hits a nerve. His anger simmers, sharp and silent. He briefly considers killing her, but settles on a more satisfying plan to make her suffer instead. He, of all people, knows exactly how to break her slowly and deliberately. Cyan informs her he'll be enrolling in the academy with Crayon. She squints, unsure what he's getting at, so he spells it out. His tone, sharp and deliberate. She wouldn't want her son graduating without his limbs intact. Her focus should be on him now. She steps forward, but the knight blocks her way and says the meeting with the Duke is urgent. They don't have time to wait. He gives her one last smirk before turning toward the Duke's chambers. He walks into the office and offers a formal greeting. Memories flicker. His father's face, and it's been 15 years since they last met in person. The man, Duke Willius Vert, the mighty feudal lord of Velis, defined by many titles. The continent's shield, the hero who held back the demon onslaught for years with sheer magical might. He carried that burden to his last breath during the demon raid. All he ever wanted was peace across the continent. But Cyan sees him differently. A man who chose to live his entire life as a servant of duty when he had the freedom not to is nothing but a fool. The Duke skips past greetings and gets straight to business, telling him that the moment Cran charged, he locked onto the sword's trajectory and dodged. Then he asks how long he's known how to wield a blade like that. Our protagonist replies that he trained on his own every night. The Duke clearly doubts him and says he's never shown the slightest interest in swordsmanship, so why hide such skill? He answers that he didn't want to attract attention. The man finds it odd that he didn't hold back against Cran and questions whether that level of aggression was really necessary. Science says he needed to prove something, that he's better than Cran. Despite their
shared bloodline, the Duke breaks into a wide grin, intrigued and excited by what he just heard. He's gone beyond expectations. He tells him he could grow into a powerful and dependable ally for Aishel one day. Cyan freezes at the sound of that name. The idea of supporting someone like Aishel, now that he knows who he truly is absurd. Just like always, the Duke's obsession with Aishel hasn't changed. He grabs his son's hands and says he can ask for anything he wants as a reward. It'll be granted. He takes this chance as the opening shot to destroy everything Aishel's built, and asks to be sent to the battlefront. Back in his room, the maid nearly jumps out of her skin when she hears what he's requested. She calls him insane for wanting to go to a place swarming with wicked creatures and demonic monsters. The Laos, the western territory of the Uchif Empire, is the only region that qualifies as the true battlefront, and even Lima Valley is considered the front line. It's a brutal war zone that's been locked in a fight against demons for centuries. Because of that, his father gives him one condition. He has 1 month to become strong enough to be worthy of entering Lamalea Valley. He has no clue how much stronger he needs to be to meet that standard, but he knows he has to raise his physical capabilities as high as possible in the meantime. He's still weaker than most kids his age. What he does have is combat intuition, carried over from his past life, and a faint trace of magic within himself. If he can build up his body, he might actually put it to use. So, the training starts now. Alice storms into the room, calling his name with fire in her voice. She's already heard the news about his plan to head to the battlefront. She lays into him, accusing him of letting his win against Crayons get to his head. Then, she tells him to meet her on the rooftop. She wants to test him, and if he can hold his own against her for 3 minutes, she won't stop him from going. He tries to talk her down, saying there's no reason for them to fight over this, but she shuts him down cold and asks if he's just chasing after her family's legacy. That's when it clicks. He gets why she's so aggressive, but he doesn't give a damn about her family name. His duel with Crayons wasn't even a full day ago, so his body is still wrecked. But she doesn't hold back. She comes at him hard with her broadsword. He reacts just in time, managing to block his strike. She pulls back, taken aback that he defended himself. A 10-year-old with a rapier just deflected her greatsword. She shrugs it off as pure luck and unleashes a flurry of fast attacks. He barely holds them off and takes some hits, but he sees a weak spot in her guard and turns the tables. He parries, slips inside her defense, and counters his blade, aiming for her neck. She doesn't have time to dodge the counter, but Cyan twists his blade at the last second, giving her a window to escape. If he hadn't done that, she would have dropped dead on the spot. The mist sword technique wasn't built for mercy. Most of its fog-based forms are made for killing, which makes it hard to hold back, especially when his physical strength is still lacking. But now, he's starting to burn out. To make up for what his body can't handle, he's been forcing mana through his sword, and he's just about hit the wall. He catches her mid-chant, blending earth and wind into her blade, and shifts into stance. The determination on her face says she's going all in, so he braces for impact, knowing damn well that trying to block that hit could send him flying out of the castle. He charges, hoping pure adrenaline and blind faith will unlock his magic medium. But before their blades connect, the knight Yulin drops in and shuts the whole thing down, blocking them both. He scolds her for going too far on someone younger. Reality hits fast. She blinks, then suddenly pulls him into a hug, trembling and apologizing for snapping. She just wanted to stop him from throwing himself into the battlefield. He gets it. He knows how she is, how she gives everything she has to everything. His sister, the Prodigy, who scored top marks across every subject at the Royal Academy. Her looks alone had people calling her a child blessed by the gods. She trained with the sword since she could walk. She once matched Ashiel blow for blow in their fight for the title of Continent's Guardian, but then it all collapsed. She joined the Knights of Light and got killed. He clutches her tight and swears to himself. This time, he'll protect her. In the middle of their moment, she turns to Yulin and narrows her eyes. Wasn't he the Duke's personal knight? What's he doing here if the Duke already left for war? The knight says he's just acting under orders to guard Cayenne while the Duke's away. It's supposed to be a quiet mission. No one's meant to know. The younger man had already sensed him back in the Duke's office, but still finds it odd that his father wanted this whole thing kept under wraps. Mid-thought, fatigue hits like a truck, and he knocks out in her arms. She smiles softly, thinking to herself, he really is still just a kid. The next morning, she heads back to the academy. He gets to work training his body. He can barely crank out 10 push-ups. Still weak, and the need to grow stronger is getting louder every day. For the past 2 weeks, he's been grinding through strength training. No results. He misses the strength he used to have. He needs something, anything that works. While he's sinking into that pit, the maid walks in with a message. A package from his sister has arrived. Inside is a bottle of hellhound blood, something he'd asked her for, a rare material from Lamalea Valley. The blood of a demonic beast notorious for its horrible stench and burning taste. People say it's poisonous, but from experience, he knows better. It gives a permanent boost to mana and physical power. The maid looks horrified and asks if he's really about to drink that stuff. He shrugs and tells her that after surviving her cooking, this is basically tea, then downs the whole thing in one go. The heat and rush of power is spread through his system. Then he says he's heading out for a walk. He goes to a spot he remembers clearly from his past life. He's been waiting for 2 weeks to do this specifically for a moment when I isn't around to report back. Years ago, Ashiel received a divine revelation from Luminel, the god of light. It spoke of an ancient temple hidden in the mountains. He hadn't believed it then, but the place turned out to be real, a zone where mana gathers in heavy concentration. In this timeline, though, that prophecy hasn't happened yet. He's the only one who knows it exists. He crouches, feeling along the earth, searching for the exact spot where the mana thickens. Then he channels his magic and the entrance to the temple begins to open. He steps inside the temple and instantly realizes something's off. It doesn't look quite the same as it did before. This place, once a shrine devoted to the god of light, Luminel, had its history erased during the Demon God War that wiped everything clean 3 centuries ago. He moves deeper into the ruins, eyes locking onto a glow pulsing from a sword, the temple's core. Back in 999 BF before Foundation, humanity had
finally driven the Demon King's forces out of Velis. The demons had power far beyond human capabilities, but humans found salvation in ancient relics called the God's Weaponry, artifacts that turned the tide. Among them was Duran Dark, a sacred blade personally blessed by Luminel. This sword was credited as the key that let humanity win the war, and it will also be the weapon that ends his life someday, when it's in the hands of Vert Ashiel. He places a hand on it. As expected, it doesn't react. He walks away, not even surprised. There's an old legend. After stepping beyond the blade's glow, a strange shadow appears. It looks like the sword's cast at first glance, but it's not a shadow. Where there's light, darkness follows. And this darkness is actually a concealed passage, hidden beyond the altar, leading to a secret chamber. He follows it in and finds a sword resting dead center in the room. His eyes soften. It's like reuniting with an old friend, the same blade from his past life. He steps forward, grips the handle, and speaks its name, Karum. The sword submits instantly. He gives it a few swings, but the magic that once pulsed through it isn't responding. It must still be deep in hibernation. Even so, the rush of finding it again fills him with something close to joy. Then out of nowhere, a voice echoes through the chamber, asking if he really feels no fear, whether he understands what it means to awaken the demons sealed in that sword. She says it's too late to back out now, and lunges, aiming to take his body, but he grabs her by the throat before she can get close. He says she's acting way too reckless, and wasn't like this before. The demon looks shaken. How can a kid touch her? He calmly reminds her that the blade belongs to him. She tries to push back, then freezes. She senses something, asks if he's the successor. Why does he carry Aira's presence? He repeats himself. He owns this sword. He inherited Ara's legacy, and she should kneel to her new master. She doesn't buy it, calls in attacks. He sighs, realizing words won't work. The will of a demonic weapon always ends with it trying to claim the user's body. So he cuts the conversation short,
flicks a finger, and slams her skull into the temple floor. He warns that if she doesn't submit now, things will get uglier. She growls, enraged, so he doubles down, pressing her even deeper into the ground to make his point. The pressure works. She breaks and finally calls him master. With that done, he figures it's time to head back. He's already been away too long. Karum practically hums with excitement, eager to breathe open air again after so long underground. She asks his name, curious. When he tells her, she raises an eyebrow. Out of everyone, why would Eru pick a kid she's never even heard of? He answers that he was chosen in a past life. He's already died once. As they walk, he passes Duran Dark, staring at it. He says it'll need to sit tight. Its real owner won't show up for another 2 decades. Karum still isn't convinced about the whole reincarnation thing, so he cuts the hilt off the sacred blade. She asks what the hell he's planning with that. He says it'll make the future a hell of a lot more fun. As the cart finally reaches its destination, RMC finally steps off the vehicle. Still can't believe the moment has actually come. The Duke is already there waiting, flanked by his knights. His father approaches and asks him straight if he's truly set on entering the battlefront. That if he wants to turn back now, he won't stop him. He gives a firm nod, saying he's confident in the path he's chosen. The Duke turns to Ilkin and commands him to activate the scroll. The knight tosses it out, magic flares, and a hellhound emerges from the summoned light. It's the trial meant to judge his worth. These creatures are low-tier demonic beasts straight out of Lemma Valley. He immediately shifts into stance, eyes locked on the enemy. From a distance, his father reminds him his actions come with weight. If he wants this, he has to prove his strength and take responsibility by passing the test. A few days earlier, he had gone to Yulin with a request for a duel. He needed something real. Training by swinging at air wasn't cutting it anymore. He wanted to know what a proper fight felt like. The knight told him he should be sparring with kids his own age, someone like Cray. But every time he showed up, Cray bolted. Still, Olin wasn't sold. He had doubts, but eventually agreed. On one condition, he would fight using only the sheath and stick strictly to defense. He agreed to the terms and added one more request. No matter what happened that day, the knight wasn't allowed to tell the Duke. Before he could say a word, our MC charged in with full force. The strike was blocked, but the weight behind it caught Yulin off guard. He didn't expect a 10-year-old's blade to hit that hard. The kid circled relentlessly, movements fast enough to blur. He struggled just to track him. Then came a high slash from behind. The knight parried, but there was no room to breathe. Blow after blow came crashing down. Every strike backed by full effort. He blocked them all, barely. Eventually, our MC stopped. As expected, he wasn't ready to win yet, but he thanked Yulin for the fight and headed off. The knight stood there in shock. The fragile little noble he once knew had changed, grown way too fast. So now, watching him face the Hellhound, he's convinced those beasts aren't going to be a problem. He watches it make its move. It charges. He dodges cleanly. Even with how far he's come, taking on a beast like this still pushes his limits, so ending it fast is the only way. The next time it lunges, he sidesteps and drives his blade across its throat, straight into its brain. It collapses immediately. As the blood pools out, he eyes it with a stray thought. How fun would it be to bottle up a few jars of this stuff? But people would probably lose it if they saw him doing that. His father claps, impressed. The test is over. He passed. The Duke tells him they'll meet again at the front lines. Karum murrows from his sword, asking why he didn't use her to finish the beast. She needs blood if she's going to wake fully. He reassures her soon enough he'll use her to his heart's content. At the battlefront, a massive ogre is tearing through the front ranks. The Duke gives a sharp command for the soldiers to fortify the defense line and eliminate the ogre immediately. A barrage of magical attacks is hurled at the creature. Binding spells tighten around it, locking its movement with arcane chains. While the beast is immobilized, he charges in with the main force to finish it off. From a distance, Cyan and his maid quietly observe. She breaks down in tears and asks why he insists on being in a place like this. He feels no fear. In fact, he admits the place almost feels nostalgic. The Duke approaches him and asks how it feels to stand on the front lines for the first time. Tyan replies that he feels a little nervous. In response, his father reminds him that death can strike anywhere and any time, so staying sharp is non-negotiable. He nods, thanking him
for the warning, but he's already aware that scenes like this are typical out here. There are usually 3 or 4 full-scale battles each day, and each one comes with a precise protocol designed to help them defeat the demons. With the advanced knights forming the backbone of the force, they handle any monsters trying to breach the line. When the battle concludes, he returns to his assigned tent far in the back, deep within the safest sector. But the guards in this area follow orders too strictly, which means he won't be able to summon Karum. He has to wait until dinner to sneak off and train outside. He sees her trembling and asks what she's even doing. She repeats the Duke's warning. He tells her to pack her bags and go back to the castle. She yells that she can't leave him alone. He's hopeless without her there. If she disappeared out of nowhere, no one would care for him. She walks out of the tent saying it's time to eat. He doesn't like how she acts with him, but lets it go. Later that night, once everyone is sleeping, he slides a plush doll under his blanket to cover for his absence. She asks if he's heading out to train. He nods, confirming it. She praises his commitment and says the Duke would be proud seeing him like this. He excuses himself and tells her to handle things and keep his absence quiet. Since it's night, the patrols tend to be tighter. Now is the best window while people are occupied. He cloaks himself in fog magic to slip through unnoticed. He recalls this place should still be crawling with monsters, the ideal ground for Karum. She smells the heavy scent of blood in the air and can barely contain her thrill. She begs him to let her cut down the beasts. He lunges into the hound pack, ripping through with a sweeping fog assault, tearing them apart without slowing down. He harvests the blood from the slaughtered hounds and drinks it, recharging his mana and body, and feeding Karum the power to grow stronger. She starts to get impatient, wondering how many more beasts they'll need to kill to reach their goal. He tells her they'll stay and train here all night. The area will keep drawing in more monsters. Elsewhere across the front lines, a group of knights is escorting a royal convoy through the mountain pass. The maid, seated in the cart, tells the young girl inside that heading to the battlefield is too dangerous, and turning back would be safer. The child, with her gloomy look and smug tone, warns the woman to quit treating her like a kid before she pisses her off. She's supposedly the next heir to an empire. The maid apologizes for overstepping and brings up something she heard. The Duke of Vert has brought his youngest son to the front lines, and apparently he's around the same age as her. The girl reacts with surprise at the Duke's decision. Why would he send someone that young into war? The maid clarifies that the Duke didn't make him go. He volunteered on his own. She repeats that he's probably her age and suggests they should get along if they ever cross paths. The girl flips into full tsundere mode and insists she's not interested in meeting him. The maid apologizes again, but the girl finally relaxes a bit and asks for his name. She tells her he's called Vert. The girl whispers it under her breath, clearly intrigued by whoever this bold young kid might be. The following day on the battlefield, Duke Vert leads his knights with precise coordination to subdue the monsters and wipe them out. After clearing the field and eliminating the threats, he approaches his son to ask how he feels after throwing himself into combat. Our MC replies that there's still a long path ahead, but he's eager to walk it. His father, impressed by his courage and resolve, despite his age, smiles and says he's proud. He stares at him surprised. It's the first time he's seen this kind of warmth. Before walking away, the Duke tells him they need a private talk inside his tent the next day. That night, with the camp deep in sleep, he makes his way to the rear zone of the front, like always, to train. But something's off. A death worm appears before him. These creatures usually spawn much deeper in the valley, so finding one here doesn't add up. In his current state, he's struggling to keep up, and Karum urges him to hand control over if he wants to survive. He knows her too well. What she really wants is full access to his body. She keeps pushing, telling him those weak swings won't do anything to a worm that can heal every wound in seconds. He has to one-shot it to end the fight for good. He hears her out. This fight could drag on forever if he keeps going solo. Even though he's consumed an absurd amount of demonic beast blood over the past month, he still feels miles from being truly strong. Letting her take over might be his only option. He steps forward, allowing it. With the 9th form of thick fog, demonic sword manifestation, she unleashes her full speed and strength, slicing the worm into pieces with almost no effort. Meanwhile, the Duke, accompanied by several of his royal trainees, passes through the area and spots the scattered corpses of hounds that were slain earlier. They immediately pick up on the dense mana lingering in the space, and it raises suspicion that a demon might be responsible. He orders the group to search the scene and get it secured quickly. This kind of thing can't be left unchecked, especially if there's demonic activity. As he studies the cuts and marks on the bodies, he notices they resemble his son's fighting style, but shakes the thought off. They sweep the area and end up finding a massive dead deathworm. A new question is raised. Who could have taken down that many beasts solo? He starts forming a theory. Some kind of secret organization might be behind these incidents. Back in his tent, our MC lies on his bed thinking back on the last time he used the demonic sword manifestation. It's the technique that lets Karum fully take over and unleash her powers with no restraints. But the risk is steep. If he slips, she could remain in control permanently. That's why he can't use it on weaker monsters. The cost is too high. Fatigue sets in, his body sore and heavy. If he hadn't been drinking all that demon blood during his stay here, he'd have collapsed long ago. As he's trying to rest, she appears, telling him she finally understands something. On the inside, he's clearly mature, but his body is still stuck in a kid's form. His instincts, awareness, and fighting skills don't match his age at all. He moves through Lemma Valley like someone who's trained for decades, and the way he uses a sword only adds to that. It's almost like he's had 30 years of experience. And after hearing what he said before about dying, she's now fully convinced he must have come back from the future. He gives her a tired look and tells her it should have been obvious from the start. She, being the loud beast she is, yells in frustration, but once she calms down, she begins digging into the details of his past death. It must have taken someone damn strong to kill him. Her theory? He was taken down by the wielder of the Durin Dark, either lost in a duel or was betrayed by someone close. She leans toward the second one. He asks how she's so sure. She explains that earlier she saw him looking at that sword like it meant something to him, like it carried a past. And if that's the case, he's
probably out for payback. Her tone shifts and she growls that if he ever dies or gets defeated again, she'll devour him whole. He knocks her on the head and reminds her who's actually in control. But inside, he's quietly relieved. She hasn't changed a bit since the day they met in his previous life. Later that day, something feels off. People are acting jumpy for no clear reason. He heads out to figure out what's going on and runs into Emily. She tells him that news just came in. High-ranking monster corpses were discovered in the valley near the rear camp, the same area he's been staying in. He instantly realizes she's talking about the creatures he's been taking out every night. He asks if any other rumors have started spreading, but before she can say more, Yulkin interrupts, saying the Duke wants to speak with him. He knows he's screwed. He handled the corpses just last night. He walks into his father's tent and greets him like always. There's hesitation in his chest. If the topic comes up, he doesn't know what excuse to give. His father would immediately recognize his attack pattern. The Duke gestures for him to sit down, and without any build-up or delay, Father immediately addresses the reason Father summoned him. Father questions where he was last night. With no hesitation and a straight face, he lies, claiming he went to bed early. Suspicion flickers. Those markings they discovered yesterday bear an uncanny resemblance to the cuts left by his sword style. But after a moment, the Duke tempers his thoughts, pushing the suspicion aside. There's no way a kid could have taken down something as massive and dangerous as a deathworm. Father asks why he's being questioned. The tone shifts more serious now as Father brings up the monster corpses found near the camp. They need to look into it thoroughly, but the one theory Father keeps circling back to is that it might be tied to an old assassin organization known as the Mist. He plays dumb like he's never heard the name before, but the explanation continues. Supposedly, the Mist has existed for centuries. No one knows their motive or ultimate purpose, but they've left a trail of dead nobles in their wake. Their signature: every kill site is shrouded in black fog. Then one day they just vanished. The last known sighting was 300 years ago. But the troubling part is the monsters found yesterday were surrounded by that same black fog, the kind linked to Eru, the god of darkness. He's the source of the organization's power and the deity they worship. Based on that alone, the Duke assumes the Mist is behind the Deathworm slaying and the other recent monster kills. Hearing this, our MC can't help but admire the sharp intuition. Even with the organization having disappeared for centuries, his father pinned the fog back to them instantly. The Duke admits they don't yet understand why the mist has suddenly reappeared, but regardless, the Empire's higher-ups must be informed. He feels slightly relieved. His father didn't suspect a thing and believed the lie. From that perspective, it makes zero sense for someone his age to be tied to a legendary underground group. The topic shifts. Does he know about the guests arriving later today? He does. The Emperor is set to visit the front. The older man nods, then says he wants a small favor. Meanwhile, the Emperor reaches the battlefield, welcomed respectfully by the knights. The Duke bows on one knee to greet his sovereign, but the Emperor quickly dismounts and tells him there's no need for ceremony. They've been friends for years. He then spots our MC nearby and introduces him as the youngest member of the Vert family. The Emperor seems genuinely pleased to see someone so young surviving in the brutal environment of the front lines. He finds it astonishing. Now he understands why his father wanted him present for this visit. This was the first time he was being formally introduced as the Duke's son. Back in his past life, whenever the Emperor came by, he was always told to stay locked in his room. But now he feels real happiness, finally being recognized publicly with pride. The Emperor then gestures to his young daughter, introducing her. The white-haired girl from earlier is none other than Iron Severs, the fifth princess of the Yushif Empire. He immediately identifies her. She's infamous as the tragic fifth princess. The favor mentioned earlier was about her. His father wanted him to ensure her safety. Since they're the same age, he could look after her, keep her company, and stay close. It would help to build a bond now, especially since they'll likely see each other again at the academy. He mentions it's a smart move to be on good terms with a member of the royal family, and hopes they'll get along. He isn't exactly eager to befriend her, but he gets where this is going. His father wants him to build the kind of bond he himself has with the Emperor. Still, that's just not who he is. There's no chance they'd ever actually be friends. For now, though, he has to go along with it. He ends up walking beside her like he was told to. She pauses by the river, eyeing it curiously, and asks why the water is red. He tells her it's called the Blood River. Name says it all. When demons get fatally wounded or lose their ability to fight, they instinctively crawl to this river. Eventually, the bodies rot and the fluids run into the water, staining it red. The idea of a river full of corpse runoff makes her sick. She then asks where exactly the river flows. He enjoys the chance to spook her, saying it heads straight to the demon realm, and if she swims far enough, she might bump into the Demon King. Their eyes drift to the sky, where a faint yellow glow appears on the horizon. He explains the light means demonic beasts are closing in. She panics, asking why demons would dare come this close to the camp. Meanwhile, up at the front lines, the Duke starts organizing for battle. He instructs the knights to focus on guarding the Emperor, then tells the rest of the army to shift west with him. The Emperor interrupts, declaring he won't sit back and let others shield him. He hasn't tasted real combat in ages and is itching to dive into the action. The Duke has no choice but to comply. They announce the Emperor is joining the charge, while the rest of the knights handle the incoming demons. The Duke then calls out for his son to join the others. He doesn't hesitate and moves to follow orders. But before he can leave, Aaron stops him and asks if he's really capable of fighting demons alone. He gives a nod, but she cuts him off, insisting she wants to come too. If he can go, then so can she. They're the same age. He brushes her off, telling her people die in this. Being the stubborn, loud kid she is, she yells that she still wants to go. He ignores her and calls for Yulin, assigning him to keep her safe and take her somewhere far from the fight. Furious, she starts yelling insults at them for treating her that way. He walks up to her with that cold stare of his and tells her straight, if she keeps throwing herself into things like this, knights will die. Maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. Is she ready to bear the weight of that? Her eyes well up. That hit too deep. He turns and starts to walk away. Before leaving, he tells her to pack up and go home if she's just going to cry like a child.
Back in the camp, high-level demonic beasts begin their attack. The Duke commands the army to prep for battle and wipe out every last one. The soldiers respond with fire and charge straight for the demonic snail. The ruler of Ushef, Emperor Dionys Varus, has taken 2 wives throughout his reign. The first, Diana Kazel, passed away years ago. The second, Cassandra Nepalis, currently serves as a royal judge within the empire's court. Diana bore him 2 daughters, the empire's first and second princes. Cassandra, on the other hand, gave birth to the 3rd and 4th princes.
But then came Erin, the fifth princess, born not of nobility, but from a commoner woman, a child born out of wedlock. Her existence has been treated like a blemish, ostracized and labeled as something unnatural, unworthy of royalty. Still, despite the constant humiliation and social scorn, she never let their judgment define her. She carried herself with the grace and presence expected of any princess, and she dedicated herself with intensity to her academic path. Even so, things eventually spiraled. She was later accused of turning her back on the empire and banished from the royal bloodline. No one knows for sure what became of her, but rumor suggests she caught some incurable illness and died alone on a remote island. That was enough to earn her the nickname the Tragic Princess. He, for one, believes things could have turned out differently. Always thought she might have stood a chance at a decent life if only she weren't so caught up in dreams and blind ambition. She drew too much attention. Karum constantly teases him, claiming her story practically mirrors his. Meanwhile, far across the war zone, the Emperor and the Duke have been making significant progress wiping out the monster swarms. Dion channels raw lightning through his body, slicing through the stragglers like they're nothing. He might hold the throne, but he's also earned a reputation as a terrifyingly skilled magic wielder. Creatures like these barely slow him down. Once the area is cleared, the two duck inside the command tent to rest. The Emperor pours himself a drink and offers one too, just to reminisce about the old days. The offer is declined. There's no room for Buzz judgment on the front, so he shrugs and drinks solo. As the quiet stretches between them, he casually brings up a troubling matter. Several nobles have been killed lately, and word is spreading fast, unsettling both citizens and soldiers. The Duke immediately asks whether there's any link between the deaths. Patterns, strange signs? D&I tells him the common thread is corruption. Every noble taken out so far had a dirty record, and more importantly, every corpse showed signs of black fog residue. That makes his companion pause. He says he noticed the same kind of fog behind the camp just yesterday, which leads him to suspect that the black fog users have resurfaced. The Emperor agrees. It's definitely something they'll have to look into further. Then, the topic shifts. He's heard whispers that Erin is being blamed for the recent chaos, and it's starting to weigh on him. He's been trying to keep things from boiling over, but some factions are clearly looking to use the situation against her. He turns to the Duke, face open and serious, and asks for one thing. If something happens, if he dies first, he wants his old friend to watch over her in his place. The promise is made without hesitation. The Duke swears on his life to protect her no matter what. And with that, the conversation draws to a close. Back in another tent, he's catching Emily up on everything that went down while she was away. She seems let down that he barely spent time around the princess. He tells her not to expect too much. She laughs, half serious, and throws out that he'll never get married at this rate. He brushes it off and steps out to return to his usual training. But outside, he runs straight into Erin standing there soaked from the downpour. She walks into the tent beside him and asks where he's heading next. Before he can answer, she tells him to stay for a moment. There's something she wants to talk about. She asks how long he's been stuck out here. He replies, nearly a month now. Not wasting time, he pushes the real question. Why did she come all the way here just to find him? But whatever she wants to say, she holds back. Emily's intense, almost unhinged gaze behind them makes her too uncomfortable to speak freely. He tells her to give them some space so they can talk privately, but she replies with a sarcastic grin, joking that they should all just have fun together. Once she's out of the way, Erin begins by apologizing, admitting she hasn't been behaving like she should, hasn't lived up to what's expected of her. He accepts it without hesitation and admits, I might have gone hard on her earlier. Her voice lowers, weighed down by emotion. She said he's well liked by everyone, that he carries himself with more maturity than she does. He instantly notices the shift in her demeanor. She brings up the fact that he's probably heading back to the academy soon, but he stops her before she can finish. He already knows where she's going with this. She wants to ask if they can be friends once they're there, but he cuts it off. Looking her straight in the eye, he tells her if she came here looking for friendship, she's wasting her time and should walk away. Trying to hold it together, she says she wasn't looking for that, just hoping to be on good terms. and says he's being unnecessarily cruel. With tears starting to fall, she says she probably sees her like everyone else does, a fake, undeserving princess. She takes a breath, pulls herself together, and apologizes for showing up at all. Says she overestimated him and walked away with nothing. Then she mutters that he's nothing like his brother, Ashul. That name hits hard. He grabs her arm without thinking, demanding to know how she even knows him. She tells him she ran into Ashul during a walk near the Royal Academy. He told her not to worry about other people's opinions, only to focus on her goals and what she wants. That makes him freeze. It's clear now that his brother had started manipulating her from the very first moment they met. Already laying down the trap, he tries to warn her, but before he can get anything out, a deep rumbling shakes the tent. Emily rushes in, panic written across her face, yelling for them to get out immediately. But they're too late. An orc crashes through the top of the tent, smashing into the ground and launching her through the air like a broken doll. From outside, the nearby knights spot the torn-up tent and realize he's still inside. Emily, sprawled in the dirt, breaks into sobs, convinced he's just been killed under the wreckage. Word of the attack reaches the Emperor and the Duke immediately. Both of their children are trapped inside the wreckage of a tent torn apart by a high-ranking demonic beast. Without pausing, D&E commands the entire military force to head straight to the scene and secure his daughter's life. Meanwhile, panic floods his mind. He can't wrap his head around why powerful monsters keep showing up this far behind enemy lines. They're supposed to stay deep within the valley. Something feels seriously wrong,
and he's starting to suspect he might be the reason behind it. Tears well in her eyes when she sees him alive, after genuinely believing the orc had killed him. But he managed to get out before the structure collapsed. There's no way he'd let an orc finish him off when he's slain demon kings in a past life. Beside her, she asks if the knights stationed at the camp are all right. Then she breaks down, overcome with guilt for coming here at all, knowing they would have followed her straight into danger. The knights approach and reassure her that protecting her is their sworn duty, and they're ready to die if that's what it takes. But the words are cut short when the orc storms back into the scene, grabbing one of them, crushing his body in a single grip and hurling him across the field like nothing. Without hesitation, he steps in front of her, standing between her and any incoming strike. The orc immediately locks eyes on him, confirming the suspicion. These advanced monsters are being drawn specifically to him. He yells for the others to fall back and get her to safety while he holds the beast's attention. Emily grabs the princess and bolts, leaving him to face the threat alone. But his strikes barely scratch the creature. It's like the blows aren't landing at all. Confused and frustrated, he starts wondering what the hell is going on. Why are they so fixated on him? That's when Karum appears, casually explaining that all the demonic blood he's been drinking to get stronger has left him reeky of power, attracting elite monsters like a beacon. Furious, he snaps, demanding to know why she didn't say anything sooner if she knew this from the start. She just grins wickedly and says she's only here for his body anyway. He doesn't hesitate, grabs her, and transforms her into his weapon. With her as his blade, he launches into the orc, slicing through limbs like butter and putting it down without breaking a sweat. But then he spots something worse. Dozens more high-level beasts still on the move. She lights up with excitement, thrilled by the prospect of such a massive feast. The mood shifts when they come face-to-face with a devil dragon. He tells her to get ready to tear into it, activating his demonic manifestation to wipe out everything standing in their way. Elsewhere on the battlefield, the Duke has just taken out the final remaining monster in his area. D&E turns, asking if there's any word on the kids. The reply is grim. There wasn't a single sign of them near the collapsed tent. The Emperor says he must be panicking over his son, but the Duke answers with a cold expression. Any member of the Vert family should know how to survive something like this. What matters now is the princess's safety. As they speak, the knights arrive, successfully bringing her back to her father. She rushes into his arms, breathless, pleading with him to save our MC before it's too late. Meanwhile, the Duke walks up to the maid and asks if she's his personal attendant. When she nods, he asks what happened. With her voice shaking, she explains that he told them to run while he stayed behind to hold off the monsters. One of the knights offers to go retrieve him if given the order, but the Duke takes a moment then declines. Their focus has to remain on the current wave. If these creatures break through the camps, nothing will stop them from reaching the Empire itself. They have to return to formation before more lives are lost. When someone asks what's going to happen to him,
The answer is calm and final. Our MC has already done his part. He protected the princess. That's what being avert means. She continues to cry, still blaming herself for everything unraveling around them. But then a sound cuts through the noise. A voice she instantly recognizes. She looks up, eyes wide, as he appears overhead, clutching the reins of a flying dragon, shouting desperately for someone to help. Dragons are majestic beings, deeply connected to the Creator, revered for their rarity and dignity. Creatures as weak and limited as humans have no business challenging one, so for him, even laying eyes on a dragon in the flesh feels like a once-in-a-lifetime honor. Unfortunately, the one he's latched onto ends up soaring directly above a crowd of people who know exactly who he is. The worst part, he can't afford to be seen in the middle of a fight. But there he is, plain as day, riding a dragon like some reckless idiot. Eyes lock onto him immediately. The Emperor watches with intrigue and asks the Duke if he's planning to save his own son. The Duke, completely unfazed, just sits there, relaxed and detached, observing how our MC handles the mess he's gotten himself into. Meanwhile, he's barely hanging on, regretting everything. He curses himself for being greedy enough to even think about tasting dragon blood in the first place. Before all this chaos began, back when he was still holding off the army of monsters, he had slashed through them quickly, not even sparing a thought until all that remained was the dragon. Seeing it up close had him practically vibrating with excitement, staring at the mythical beast with wide, awe-filled eyes. But the moment didn't last. It went aggressive fast, blasting a column of fire his way. He dodged and scrambled for the high ground, launching a flurry of attacks in return, but each strike only pissed it off more. Then came the tail swipe, hard and fast, smacking him through the air like a rag doll. Before it could follow up, he switched to martial arts, pounding it with heavy, rapid blows across its body. Still, it wasn't enough to bring the beast down. As he prepped for his next move, something unexpected happened. It stopped. Then it simply turned and flew away. But of course, being the impulsive little gremlin he is, he leapt after it without thinking, grabbing onto its side like a maniac just to steal a taste of its blood. That's how he ended up stuck, clinging to its back, powerless and exposed. She demands to know why he hasn't used her to fight back. At this rate, he's going to get himself killed. He screams back that if anyone sees him use his powers now, he'll be fried alive. He can't let that secret get out. While they're still arguing, they spot the Duke beginning to cast a massive, high-level magic spell, an 8-star incantation. Panic hits. Immediately, that serious look on his father's face means only one thing. He's about to target the dragon, even knowing his son is on it. The spell launches. Blades of magic shoot into the air, slicing through flesh with terrifying force. He leaps off just in time, trying to dodge the raining blades midair. As he falls, she yells for him to use his powers to escape, to fly out before it's too late. But he still can't risk being seen. Desperate, he scans the area and spots a river of blood not too far off. As a last-ditch effort, he shifts his trajectory and aims at it, hoping it'll cushion the fall. Somewhere else in the valley, a pair of demons had been watching the commotion. One, the older of the two, remarks that it must have been a young dragon getting itself into trouble. The white-haired one next to him counters, saying something incredibly powerful must have scared it off. Only a high-level beast could do that. But the elder casually corrects him. That section of the valley is solely populated by humans. Still, if curiosity's got him, he's free to check it out for
himself. Just try not to massacre everything in sight. The younger nods, spreading his wings and flying toward the chaos. Back near the river, he somehow survives the fall. Crawling out of the bloody water, breathless and drenched, he drags himself onto the shore to rest. He quickly checks on her, making sure she's all right too, but she's too furious to even speak. He tells her to relax, promises they'll head back soon, but she snaps at him to be careful. Right now, they're standing in the middle of demon territory. He laughs it off, saying there's no way their luck is that bad. Not enough to run into a powerful demon this late in the day. But, right on cue, fate slaps him across the face with a voice he knows far too well. A voice burned into his memory for years. The voice of Vicarion, the Demon King. In the past, everyone who had ever laid eyes on him said it felt like staring directly at the personification of darkness itself. That very presence now looms before Sion. Instinctively, he shifts into a defensive stance. With a furious tone, Voluronian demands to know if he is a human. Too tense and hyper-focused to respond, he keeps his silence. In an instant,
The Demon King blinks toward him, clearly extending an invitation to fight. Scion reacts immediately, slashing with Karum, but only manages to shear off a bit of his hair. Valkyrian appears intrigued, impressed even, by the speed of his movement. Karum quickly asks who the hell he's trying to fight, and Scion answers with a weighty pause. It's the Demon King. That alone sends her into a panic. She says there's no way he can beat someone of that caliber at his current strength. Now stuck in a dire situation, he realizes he's got no real chance of winning, and even escaping could end with him being caught. He locks up briefly, trying to process what to do, but then Valkyrian surprises him by calmly telling him to relax. He claims he won't lay a finger on a kid like him. He even lies down casually, suggesting they just talk for a bit. Tyne finds this strange and out of character, completely baffled by the Demon King's demeanor. Once again, Valkyrian asks if he's really a human and how he ended up here. He answers that yes, he is, and that he ended up falling into the blood river, which dragged him all the way to this place. Valkyrian, however, isn't fully convinced. He senses something odd emanating from our MC, and asks if this is truly his first time here. Scion nods, but the other still isn't buying it. He then questions whether our MC has seen him before, to which he firmly denies. That answer, however, does feel genuine enough that Valkyrian believes him. After all, how could a human possibly know him when the latter had never even met a human before? Still, Scion remains unsure, his mind racing to figure out if this really is the same Valkyrian he remembers from his previous life. He decides to ask why he's even here. The Demon King replies that he sensed an unusual surge of energy from this direction and came to investigate, explaining that, as ruler of these lands, it's only natural for him to look after them. Our MC's lack of surprise actually reinforces his suspicions. His unbothered expression makes it seem like he already knows him. Valkyrian continues to talk, clearly thinking aloud, but Scion isn't really listening. He's too caught up in how wildly different this man is from the version he once knew. If everything unfolds the same way it did in his past life, the demon invasion will begin soon. But looking at him now, he just doesn't seem like the type who would trigger such chaos. If this is his real personality, then something must have gone wrong to alter him. So, Time takes a risk and asks what he truly wants to achieve as Demon King. Amused by our MC's boldness, he says that all he desires is to ensure safety and prosperity for his people, and if anyone threatens that peace, he won't hesitate to wipe them out. For a split second, Scion glimpses the real core of Velyuron, a raw force of evil, restrained deep within. Something must have set him off in the past to awaken that beast, and our MC knows he has to prevent it from happening. He warns that soon either Valkyrion or his empire may face a dire turning point. The Demon King frowns, puzzled by the vagueness, asking what he's getting at. Scion admits he doesn't know the exact details, but if events spiral, a massive conflict between humans and demons could erupt, and he wants terms to stop it. Velyuron wonders aloud why he'd want to start a war with humans to begin with. Tyne responds with a plea. No matter what happens, promise never to invade the human lands or declare war. That raises an eyebrow from him, who presses, what's in it for him? Scion promises that whatever threat comes his way, he'll do all he can to support him. Velyuron still finds it amusing, but there's something about our MC's courage he respects. He asks for his name, and upon learning it, solemnly vows as Demon King that he will never initiate war with the humans or encroach upon their lands regardless of circumstances. But he warns that Scion must uphold his end. With that said, he takes off into the sky. Not long after, RMC is spotted by frontline scouts patrolling the river. Word spreads fast. He becomes known as the one who survived the Devil Dragon. Later, back within the abbey near the Velius border, Scion rests in a hospital bed. Erin sits nearby with flushed cheeks. She hesitantly gathers her words and asks him if he would be hers. Scion can't make sense of what's unfolding around her. From the look he gives, she picks up that he clearly doesn't want to go through with it, and it hits her hard. Tears start building as she admits it actually tracks that he'd avoid someone like her, just a useless royal with no power to offer. Her reaction's starting to wear on him, her mood, her desperation, the way she's laying it all out. It's beginning to grate. Deep down, he already knows she's got nothing practical to bring to the table, but her emotional mess is tugging at his patience. She quickly brushes her tears away and forces a smile, insisting she just needs to level up, get stronger, become powerful enough that someone like him might finally look at her way and accept her presence. She locks in that goal, swearing she'll grow so terrifyingly capable that resisting her won't even be on the table anymore. Just before stepping out, she pauses at the door and throws a quiet thanks his way for not dropping dead on the front lines the other day. Some days later, off in the shadowed edge of the forest's rear border, a man slips through the trees, making sure no one's trailing behind. He pulls a cube from his pack, arcane and faintly glowing. The moment it's exposed, dark chains of cursed magic lash out, locking his limbs in place. A voice cuts in behind him, scans remarking in disbelief that Reynold Crimson was the rat all along. The smuggler immediately launches into a frantic explanation, rambling about how
the cube's no ordinary item. It's packed with enough raw mana to give it near limitless storage, a design straight out of the Karum Kingdom's mage labs. The assassin yanks the cube away and pulls off his mask, revealing his face and casually reciting his full name like he's reading it off an arrest warrant. Reynold freezes, stunned that Cyan's the one who got the jump on him. He demands to know what brought him out here, but the other man doesn't even acknowledge the question, already digging through the crates and supplies the smuggler's been hauling. He notes everything. Contraband parts, demonic remnants, and it clicks. Reynold's been draining corpses of their corrupted blood, packing the stuff into carts and slipping them through the borders with inside help. He's sure of it. Someone's been feeding him access. Reynold shrugs it off, swears he has no clue what his captor's going on about, but can way ahead. He's seen the demonic blood floating around the underground markets. Somebody's selling. While he tries to piece together who the mole could be, Reynold tries to blindside him with a fire burst. He thinks it'll land, but instead, Cyan already closed in, slicing through his hands and pinning them into the bark of a nearby tree. Then comes the deal. Either Reynold spills everything, the smuggling path, the identity of the traitor, the whole operation, and gets a clean end, or he holds out and gets dragged through a torture so drawn out and merciless he'll be begging for death before long. Later, over on the western edge of Velis, inside a trade station near the border, a group of merchants crack open a box of supposed blood shipments, only to recoil when they spot Reynold's decapitated head hovering in a swirl of black mist inside one of the containers. Not far from the scene, Cyan keeps watch from a concealed vantage point, monitoring quietly as his plan unfolds. Karum, standing beside him, questions why he's letting these traitors walk free. He replies flatly, they just need something to shake them. A warning. He remembers all of this from his last life. Reynold Crimson, deep in bed with Garum's government, had been trafficking corrupted blood right under everyone's nose. Every shipment led back to Garum's Mage Society, the same people fanatically obsessed with unraveling magic source and stretching its limits beyond reason. Right now, they're still focused on creating handy tools like the Dimension Cube, but he knows what comes next. Soon they'll push further, start crafting horrors with that blood, twisting magic into something far worse. And he's dead set on stopping that spiral. Karum throws in a jab, mocking him for suddenly doing the Empire a solid after swearing he was done with all that, said he'd live for himself this time. Back in one of the estates owned by the Uchif, Ashel lounges in a room, having just wrapped up some private time with a woman. His attention perks up when she mentions something. Cyan apparently went off to the front lines, and he took their father with him. That's all it takes. Now Ashel's ready to pay his brother a visit. The bastard's been getting on his nerves lately, and he's not letting that slide. Emily lets out a loud cheer the moment she's finally off the front lines and safely inside the castle. The relief is real, and she practically shouts her excitement. She turns to Cyan, saying the academy is going to be a total upgrade compared to this grim place they're stuck in now, but he doesn't share that energy. His face says it all. He already knows what's coming, what's waiting inside those academy walls, and it's nothing like what she's imagining. Truth is, that place isn't the bright new chapter she's hoping for. It's a maze of backroom politics and shallow alliances. Envy fuels everything and clout outranks talent. Actual learning takes a backseat to social climbing. She, on the other hand, is hyped because she's heard the academy's full of good-looking guys, and she's convinced it might finally be her shot at finding romance. Time passes, and eventually the entrance day arrives. Cyan reaches the front gates and on his way in, runs into Crowns. The moment the guy notices him, he bolts without a word, still spooked from the last time he completely wrecked him. Karum, confused by the sudden retreat, asks what's up with him. Cyan brushes it off, explaining he's just his half-brother. She comments that he doesn't really resemble the rest of the family, but he disagrees, saying he's not all that different from Alice. Once inside, the academy staff greet him, excessively polite, overly respectful, and he clocks something odd. None of them will meet his eye. Their behavior reeks of someone important lurking nearby, probably his father, the Duke, or maybe even his older brother, but he doesn't dwell on it. After grinding nonstop for the past year, he decides to take it as a win. Maybe this is what reward looks like. He moves through the hallway until he reaches his assigned room. Before he even opens the door, a familiar aura cuts through the space. It's strong, unmistakable. Ashel is on the other side. He already knows. And right on cue as he pushes the door open, there he is, his older brother, standing there with a smug, "Been a while," greeting. Cyan keeps himself in check, trying not to do anything reckless. Ashel comments that he probably doesn't even remember him. It's been years, not since before he entered the academy. That flicks a switch. Cyan snaps, fury rising, and moves to grab Karum for a counterattack, but she intercepts him just in time, urging him not to lose it, reminding him that one wrong move here could get him killed. He listens barely. Instead, he greets Ashel through clenched teeth, saying he'd never forget his older brother's face. The elder laughs and ruffles his hair, pleased he still remembers. Then he strolls deeper into the room, casually mentioning that he's heard Kong's gotten way better at fighting this past year, and that maybe now he might actually be of use on the battlefield. Cyan bites back the disgust, says he's looking forward to it too, but the hatred in his eyes says something else. Ashel catches that glare and pauses, says he just dropped by to see him, nothing more. But Cyan knows better. He doesn't waste time on people he thinks are beneath him. If he's here, there's a reason. And oddly, that calms him down. Meanwhile, just down the hallway, Emily's lugging his stuff toward the room. She yells out, pissed he didn't come help carry it, but as she approaches, she freezes. Ashel walks out instead. He brushes right past her, telling her to just mind himself and get back to work. Once he's gone, she vents her frustration, demanding to know why the hell Khan warned her he'd be here today. He doesn't respond, just tells her to leave him alone for a bit. He locks himself in the bathroom, leans over the sink, and throws up. The pressure, the tension, it all hits him at once. When he steadies himself, he turns to Karum, demanding to know why she stopped him earlier. To him, it made no sense. It was the perfect opening. She could have taken over his body, right?
Then she shuts that down, says she didn't hold back because she was being soft. She just wants his rage to keep growing. The more twisted it gets, the better he'll taste. Cyan smirks, says he prefers her this way. Over in Ashel's private room, a butler enters with an update. As ordered, he's been tracking the second princess, and now he's found her. She's got away with people. Makes sense she'd pull it off. He tells the butler to notify him right away if she ever decides to return. The servant nods, but before exiting, asks if something happened during the meeting. He looks different, happier even. Ashel laughs, shaking his head, says it's actually the opposite. His mood's crap. All he can think about is that look Cyan gave him earlier, sharp and heavy like he was staring down a sworn enemy. He orders the man to keep tabs on Cyan from here on out. The butler promises to assign someone for surveillance and leaves. Ashel stays behind, alone, still thinking, still trying to figure out what the hell his younger brother might be hiding. Just outside the castle walls, a formation of royal knights waits in full gear, lined up to escort Cyan on his way to the academy. Emily lingers nearby, clearly downcast. She's not allowed to ride along with them, and it stings. He says his goodbyes and tells her to behave, wishing her well before stepping away. Right as he's turning to leave, she calls out to remind him not to get discouraged if people mess with him once he's there, and to take care of himself no matter what. Her words catch him off guard, not because of what she says, but because it proves she hasn't changed at all since his last life. Still the same, still kind, still exactly as she was back then. Like that one time when he was 8, down with a brutal fever, blacking out again and again with no one around to even notice. No one but her. She'd picked him up and carried him on her back, running all the way to the closest doctor. Stayed up through the night beside him, watching over him the entire time. If not for her, he'd probably have died somewhere in a forgotten corner of the castle. Leaning his head out from the cart, he yells back at her, half joking, telling her she better behave or she'll be punished when he returns. She waves after him, eyes glossy with tears but smiling wide. To him, she's never just been a maid. She's someone he holds close, someone who genuinely matters. Once back inside the cart, something starts to feel off. The escort, 6 knights, for one person. It doesn't sit right. He starts to suspect there's more to this than a routine trip. Whatever they're planning, it probably won't wait until he reaches the academy. Hours pass before they pull over. One of the knights tells him they'll be camping here for the night. Curious, he asks where exactly they are.
They respond vaguely, claiming it's a location in the center of Saffron and that they should be arriving at the city by morning. But he knows better. The landscape doesn't match. Not even close. No forest like this exists near Saffron. Judging from the surroundings, they've dragged him somewhere isolated, deliberately out of reach. He climbs out of the cart and right away the group closes in, surrounded. Calmly, he asks the only thing that matters. Who's pulling the strings? Who's behind this setup? They don't answer. One of them simply tells him the only thing he needs to know is that he's dying today. A knight steps forward and moves to swing at his neck. He sidesteps effortlessly, then takes the man's head off clean in a single counter. Raising his sword, he levels it at the rest and repeats the question. They rush him all at once, but they don't last long. Within seconds, he cuts through them like dead weight, limbs and armor crashing to the ground. He leaves just one alive. The last knight, staring up in sheer terror, finally understands how he managed to walk away from a demon dragon encounter. The moment they accepted this mission, they were already screwed. He walks over, weapon still drawn, and asks again, "Who ordered this? No dodging, no delay." Panicking, the knight blurts it out. It was Mrs. Margaret. She's the one who issued the kill order. He doesn't kill him. Instead, they both return to the cart and resume the ride toward the academy. Along the way, the knight offers another piece of the puzzle. Apparently, Cray had gone to Margaret and asked her for a favor, this hit job, most likely his request. He grits his teeth. That's enough. He vows to settle things with Cray later. The knight, looking dejected, asks quietly, what's going to happen to him now? He responds flatly. He's useful for the time being, so for now, he can drive. Not long after, the outline of the academy finally comes into view in the distance. They've reached their destination. Back at the estate, Margaret completely loses it when word hits that the mission's gone sideways. News spreads that most of her men were found dead near the road, their corpses discarded like trash. Yet somehow, Tiny survived, and worse, made it to the academy. Her nerves spike, disbelief setting in. None of this tracks. The butler calmly suggests they may have misjudged his abilities, but the idea that a kid pulled this off doesn't sit right with either of them. He figures there has to be a hidden hand orchestrating this mess. He floats the idea of sending a cleaner to the academy to finish the job. She cuts him off before he can finish. If they try that, he'll go straight for crayons. She orders a full blackout. No retaliation, no leaks, no word of today's incident. The servant bows out and leaves. But outside the room, Ashel's butler has been eavesdropping the entire time, undetected. It's been 10 days since Scene and Brian rode out from Saffron. By now, they've probably figured out I'm still breathing. That means the road to the Royal Academy is finally safe. But now he has to figure out what the hell to do with Brian after this. Not long after, as he lounges in the back of the cart, soaking in the quiet, the escort gives him the heads up. They've arrived. He glances out and spots the academy building. Nostalgia hits hard. A flood of memories come rushing in. Some good, most crap. He walks in and hands over his credentials at the front desk. A wave of whispers follows, people stunned to hear the name Scion Vert. He's instructed to head to his dorm and wait there. In 2 days, he's expected to attend the entrance ceremony and elemental assessment. The staff hands him an ornate key paired with a sealed letter. He gives both a once-over, baffled, then stunned when he learns he's been assigned a royal hall all to himself. No one in his bloodline has ever gotten that honor, so clearly someone's pulling strings. Brian steps inside with him, still trailing along. Tyan turns to him. Now that the escort gig's over, it's time to settle things. The guy freezes, convinced his time's up. But instead of a blade, he gets a hefty sack of gold, payment for his work, more than enough to start over somewhere. Off guard, his eyes.
Well up, he drops to one knee and begs to serve for life. The request throws Cayenne completely. Why would anyone want that? So the man explains his father always told him, if you ever find someone worth your loyalty, don't hesitate. The whole thing annoys Cyan. He thinks it's a stupid way to live. How can Brian be so sure he won't get betrayed down the line? The answer's simple. If it happens, it happens. Cyan shrugs it off and decides to skip the ceremony. He's going straight for the elemental test. Meanwhile, inside the dean's office at the Royal Academy, the man sifts through the latest elemental results. This year's batch brought in plenty of impressive candidates, like Aaron, who scored 2-star mana and shows a 50% alignment with the light element, and more beyond her. He's honestly impressed with what the kids are packing this year, but one name jumps out above the rest. Cyan. 2-star mana, S-rank physique, and most shocking of all, 92% darkness affinity. Not even his sister alive, Ver, the so-called child of God, hit those numbers. She only scored 88 in water when she graduated. He admits it's wild. None of the other prodigies match up to her little brother. Instructor Sarah points out that his element is still darkness. He knows, but she should also know that he was granted a royal hall on direct order from the Emperor. The kid earned it after saving Eren from a monster attack at the front lines. Now the Emperor is thinking about marrying them off. He asks Sarah what she thinks would happen if the overlooked 5th princess married into the Vert family, known for turning out elite talents. The answer's obvious. Succession drama, empire-wide chaos, maybe even civil war. She cautions that pushing things too far could shatter the realm, but he brushes it off. No need to get ahead of things. He wants to see how this plays out, whether Cyan becomes the Empire's savior or its downfall. Elsewhere, Cyan paces the halls, going over his elemental results in his head. He's still stunned by the numbers. He only had 80 in his past life. He figures guzzling all that demonic blood must have given him a boost to 92. Out of nowhere, he runs into Cray, who looks like he's seen a ghost. The guy clearly thought he was dead. Right next to him is a chubby jerk from back in the day, Popper Panarin, another envier who used to make his life hell, just like Cray. Cyan practically lights up at the chance to deal with him early. Popper charges forward, trying to start something, but Cyan doesn't even get the words out. Cyan slams him into the wall with one clean kick before the guy can make a sound. He leaves Popper, knocked out cold on the floor, then turns to Crayons, asking for a quick talk. Stepping in close, voice low, and smile unsettling, he says flat out he doesn't give a damn what schemes the guy runs behind the scenes. But if he lays eyes on him again, he's leaving the academy in a wheelchair. Cran's legs give out. He drops, eyes watering, completely broken. Cyan walks off, grinning wide, pride practically spilling out of him. Sarika, still lingering on the dean's words, replays the whole conversation in her head. She's now convinced she needs to keep tabs on him, tight ones. Just as she goes to pull a book from the shelf, she notices it's gone. Behind her, his voice breaks the silence. He's holding it, asking if she was searching for this. She whirls around, caught off guard. She didn't sense him get that close. She reminds him students aren't allowed in here and tells him to hand over the book. The second she gets it back, she strikes. Black fog lashes out. He narrowly sidesteps the hit and calls her out as the Hawkum of the Assassin's group missed. That throws her. She has no idea how he knows that. In his past life, their first meeting had felt completely normal. She'd casually asked about his day, assumed he wanted to be done with counseling fast, but insisted it was for his own development. Back then, it made 0 sense. What growth was she expecting from someone constantly humiliated by his own brother in front of the whole school? She'd admitted she found him intriguing. Not every day someone shows up with an 84% darkness element. But he'd always been told darkness wasn't worth much. She disagreed, said that was just because humanity barely understands it. His potential, she claimed, was limitless, and she was looking forward to seeing what he became. Her sweet tone and soft smile had fooled him completely. The whole instructor act just a cover. She's hiding out in the academy, smack in the middle of royalty and nobles, while working as a real assassin. Her demeanor shifts. She tells him they'll continue this in her lab. He's a bit thrown off by how calm she is. Inside, it's just like he remembers. He takes a sip from the tea she pours and instantly knows she laced it. She laughs it off, but he shrugs. Poison doesn't work on someone who's been chugging demonic blood. He tells her she'll need a better recipe next time. She asks how the hell he knows all this, especially the fact she gets her orders from specific books in the library, the exact spot he went for. Now she's suspicious he might actually be missed too. He tells her there's no better proof than that. That pisses her off. He brings up how before he left for Chadden, someone questioned whether one night would be enough. Nobles have been dropping like flies lately. He grins and casually asks when the purification project kicked off. She plays dumb, claiming she has no idea what he's on about, but he calls her bluff, says he's on to the assassinations. She warns him he's going to regret running his mouth. They both gear up to fight. Fog thickens around the lab as she suddenly hurls the table at him. He doesn't dodge, just drives his fist straight through the wood, splitting it in two. He tells him
He's already shown more than enough to prove who he is. No reason to keep this going. She ignores that and keeps the pressure on. Even if he was part of Mist, she'd know. She's the Hawkum, and she's never seen his face. No way she's letting him walk. He draws Karum, slicing through every strike she throws with clean, quick counters, saying he'll give her all the proof she needs. That's when her eyes land on the weapon, the demonic blade. Only someone chosen by Itru can wield it. She freezes, rattled. He tells her he knows Mist is still searching for the successor. They can stop. He's standing right in front of her, and he wants her to take him to Itru. In a shadowy valley tucked somewhere deep in Lewin, Sarika pushes open a hidden basement door, revealing a tunnel that dives far beneath the surface. She finds it odd that Cyan doesn't seem remotely surprised that Mist's base turns out to be in such a grim back alley place. From this point on, she tells him he's on his own. He'll have to walk to the altar alone, just like he wanted. He steps through the doorway, letting it shut firmly behind him. What lies ahead isn't ordinary space. It's a constructed realm formed from the god of Fog's power, which makes the interior stretch far beyond what the entrance suggests. He already knows
Time. Each group of Mist operatives appears. 2 show up at 4 p.m., 3 more at 11. As he walks down the dim path, a barrage of flying daggers comes at him out of nowhere. With a sharp swing, he bats them away cleanly. Honestly, this kind of violent greeting is exactly the sort of thing Mist would pull for new arrivals, though this might be a little much even for them. A cluster of masked assassins leap from above to catch him off guard, but all they land on is his afterimage. He's already out of range. They throw another round of blades, but he isn't stupid enough to fall for the same gimmick twice. Hell, it didn't even work the first time. This time, he swats the daggers back mid-air, sending them straight into the ones who threw them. They pause, clearly impressed by his reaction time and control. Now serious, they spread out and encircle him, ready to strike from every direction. He unleashes his fog magic, Bloodthirst Wave, a special mist-only technique that channels killer intent into a physical force to restrain opponents. The red mist wraps around their bodies, squeezing so tightly they can't even breathe. One by one, they crumple to the floor, passed out, but not all of them. One remains standing, unaffected by the spell. He clocks right away that this one is clearly higher ranked than the others. He gears up to cast Unshakable Roots, something more powerful, but the assassin blitzes in before he can finish, cutting him off. The attacker's mask falls in the scuffle, and it turns out it was Sarah the whole time. She inserted herself into the fight to personally test what he was really capable of. A total combat freak obsessed with powerful mages, she just happens to see him as the perfect target. He knocks her back using Karum, but she's still too hyped up to quit. While she keeps rambling about how skilled he is and how badly she wants to keep going, he abruptly takes off. He already knows what kind of lunatic she is, someone who fights for the thrill and doesn't stop until either she or her opponent drops. Only people who faced her firsthand would understand. She's the kind that chases until one of you is dead. She sprints after him, casting a speed-enhancing spell to close the gap and launching an attack that he parries without much effort. Still, he has zero interest in throwing down with her right now. She slows and says he doesn't need to worry about people outside detecting his magic. This whole zone is sealed off, built by Aru himself. The outside world doesn't even know this place exists, which means he can go all out and use whatever he has in his arsenal without restraint. But she also warns that if he does, she might not walk out alive. Before he can respond, his legs give out and he collapses right in front of her without warning. Then Karum materializes into her physical form, stepping between them. Sarah instantly recognizes her and bows in respect. The spirit demands an answer. Why the hell was she attacking Iru's chosen successor? Sarah casually replies it was all just a little test to see if he really was who he claimed to be. Karum is not amused. She's pissed and threatens to take over the fight herself. Before she makes a move, they both notice him on the floor, bleeding out and unconscious. When Karum enters her true form, it drains the life force of the host. And right now, his body isn't built to handle that kind of load. She cradles him in her arms, yelling at him like this is the last thing he needed added to his plate. Sarah Kika, still grinning in that weird, creepy way, interrupts to say she's not going to reject the duel that was offered. He forces himself upright, barely holding steady, and asks why the hell she manifested without warning. Karum tells him to stay out of it and rest. She'll handle this round. Sarah lights up at the idea, thrilled to fight the spirit instead. They square off, and she's clearly loving the threat, acting like a full-blown masochist. Before they can trade blows, Iru's voice cuts through the realm, booming from a portal overhead, ordering them to knock it off and send to the altar. Finally, things might go as planned. He's about to meet the god of darkness. People from long ago speak of the god of black fog as a heartless force, one who takes lives without pause or reason. They defended as an act of mercy, twisted in a way only they seemed to understand. It was their will, their call, what they claimed to want. In the end, they insisted no one else had the right to define right or wrong on their behalf. And if killing was the only option to protect your beliefs, then fine, so be it. Most folks label that mindset insane, totally unhinged. But in truth, he has been shielding the vulnerable this whole time, which to Sion just makes him a deluded fool. He steps through the portal, heading straight for the altar where Enro resides. The moment he arrives, he's asked if he knows who stands before him. He answers without hesitation. Enro, the god of black fog. Even though he's technically the chosen successor, the god has never heard his name before and wants proof, something solid to back the claim. But the fog energy already pulsing inside him says enough on its own. There are only two paths to becoming a successor. Either Enro handpicks you, or the mist stone does. Since the god doesn't recognize him, it can only mean the stone chose on its own, especially considering it vanished completely last year, which lines up even more with his identity as the next in line. Enro is honestly impressed that he managed to awaken Karum, let alone control her with such ease. And those eyes, sharp, focused, nothing like a kid's, tell him immediately this boy is from a time and place far removed from his own. Sion once suspected the god had meddled in his trip through time. But Enro isn't the all-powerful being he used to be. His divine power has been long gone, and Sion already knows that. Still, he came here hoping for better answers. Enro shrugs it off, saying it's actually worked out well. Less effort for him now that the successor found his own way here. Lazy as ever, just like Sion remembers. But jokes aside, the god notices something off. His guest didn't come empty-handed. He can feel it, an object giving off a nasty aura. It's the hilt of the holy sword. He questions him. Wasn't the power of the demonic sword enough? Now he wants both? But Sion has no intention of doing anything with it for now. He just doesn't want the world to remember the blade exists. Let it fade into irrelevance. The way he thinks catches Enro off guard, but he doesn't press further. It's none of his business. Still, tradition is tradition. He has to ask the successor what he intends to do with the power he's about to receive. This isn't the first time Sion has faced that question. Last time, his answer was dumb. Live for his brother. That answer got him betrayed, got him killed. What's strange is how no one seemed bothered about it back then. Enro even warned him not to put blind faith in others, almost like he already knew how pathetic that ending would be. But this time, things won't play out the same. Sion isn't chasing
some grand mission or noble dream. He'll use that power for one reason, himself. Enro tells him it's on him to figure out what's right or wrong, but he'd better think carefully. Depending on his answer, he might not leave this place alive. Sion doesn't flinch. No fear, no second thoughts. He decided from the start he's done following orders, done living by someone else's rules. Now, curious, Enro asks what he's planning to do with that kind of freedom, but he refuses to answer. It doesn't matter. As long as he fulfills his duty as successor, the god won't pry. He gets the message and doesn't bother asking anything else. He turns to Karum. He's got something to say to her. She's his daughter, after all. The scary god routine drops immediately. His whole vibe softens as he cups her face and gently asks how she's been managing under her new owner. On her end, she hasn't changed a bit, still sharp-tongued and cold like always. He leans in and plants a kiss on her forehead. It isn't just a kiss. That touch snaps her into her true form, and it doesn't drain any of Tion's mana this time, because Enro gives her a portion of his own life force, allowing her to maintain that body without wearing him out. Then he jokes that she'll need a body if she wants to get freaky with her master. She absolutely loses it, yelling and tearing into him for saying something so disgusting. Honestly, they're kind of perfect for each other. Same chaotic energy. The following day, inside the royal hall, Brian asks what the hell is going on, but Sion is just as lost, watching it all unfold. At the center of the room, Sarah and Karum stand face to face, tension building with every glare. The sword spirit tries to rile her up, saying it's suspicious how close the constructor and Sion must be if she's sneaking into his room early in the morning. Sarah doesn't react. She just gives a calm smile and lets it slide. Still, the air thickens like two wild animals sizing each other up before a brawl. Midway through the awkward standoff, he dips, saying he's going for a walk, and leaves Brian stuck between them right before things finally boil over. Outside, though, still within Academy grounds, Sion perches high on a rooftop, quietly observing the students down below. No one can see him. It's his go-to escape spot. His peace doesn't last. The metallic tang of blood hits his nose. Down below, a group of older students are ganging up on a younger kid, beating the hell out of him. One of them brings up doing a little experiment, and the others go along without question. The blonde one forms a glowing sphere of mana and yanks the kid's mouth open. They're about to force feed it to him. Before he can shove it in, a voice cuts through the air, sharp and clear, telling them to back off. Princess Erin steps forward, a fraying, calling them out. How could nobles stoop so low and attack the helpless? The ringleader straightens up and introduces himself as Barrett Lewis Mill, eldest son of a duke from the Gam Kingdom, then asks who the hell she is. She hardens her expression and gives her name with full authority. Erin, 5th princess of the Ushif Empire. Barrett doesn't seem all that fazed by the princess title or the fact she's the youngest of the imperial bunch. Puffing up his chest, he steps closer, clearly trying to intimidate her. She refuses to shake his hand and warns she'll report everything to the academy. In a sloppy attempt to defuse things, he spins around and points to the kid they were beating. He insists it's all just one big misunderstanding, claims they weren't bullying anyone. Turns out the kid's a girl, and according to him, there's no harm being done. He offers to let her speak for herself. The girl stands trembling and bruised, eyes dulled with resignation. She quietly tells Erin nothing's wrong, they weren't hurting her, and it's best if she just walks away. He bursts into laughter, the kind that screams villain reveal. But she doesn't buy a single word. It's painfully obvious the girl's lying out of fear. Before she can lead the girl away, he grabs Erin's arm to stop her. He tells her it's already too late. Leximus made her choice. Right as things are about to spiral, Cyan steps in, sweeping his legs out from under him and sending him crashing flat to the ground. The inflated aura vanishes instantly. One glance is all it takes for Cyan to recognize Leximus. Hard to forget someone you had a brutal death match with in a past life. She was the continent's top swordswoman, born in the Ushif Empire, but after messy events post-graduation, defected to Count Klein's house in Gam. That duel had been long and savage. He was ordered to assassinate her. Instead, he challenged her formally. He didn't gain a damn thing from doing it that way, but she'd earned it. She never used mana and still held the title of best sword user alive. So he faced her head on. No tricks, no sneak attacks. Back on his feet, Barrett dusts himself off and locks eyes with Cyan. He knows who he's dealing with. Word spread about a battlefield survivor who even stood toe-to-toe with a dragon. Rather than start a fight, he offers a spot in their game. It's called Mana Marbles, a twisted pastime where you jam mana orbs down someone's throat until their internal mana tears itself apart. They're no threat to Cyan, but he's not in the mood for a fight either. So, he cooks up a scare tactic, forming a mono marble in his hand and building it until it balloons to the size of a damn cow, then calmly threatening to force feed it right back. They take Leximus to the dorms to get checked out. She looks okay on the surface, but she'll need to rest a few days to let her internal injuries mend. Erin stands beside the bed, proud and unshaken, telling her to take it easy. She assures her this was something they had to do and she doesn't owe them anything. Then teases how those cowards bolted the second Cyan showed up. At the far end of the room, he stays quiet, remembering how tough she really was. Cracked ribs, a concussion, still pushing forward. Exactly what you'd expect from the best swordswoman the continent would ever see. She catches him staring and asks if they've met before. He apologizes, saying no, but it's a lie. Erin asks where her room is. She wants to walk her back so those guys don't mess with her again. Leximus mentions she lives in the commoner hall. That throws her off. She didn't expect that. She blurts out, "Wait, you're a peasant?" Leximus nods. She got into the academy thanks to instructor Velan, who promised to cover her fees. But after getting dismissed with no explanation, she's left without support. Cyan suggests she withdraw from the academy altogether. Things aren't going to get better here. Erin, clearly upset, watches his face. He changes tone, telling her to take Leximus in as a servant. Train under her. Learn swordsmanship along the way. Leximus blinks, confused. Wait, why is he calling her a girl? He thought he didn't know. Turns out no one ever told him.
She apologizes for the
misunderstanding. She dresses in boyish clothes, keeps her hair short. It's easy to see why people assumed wrong. Eren is embarrassed but shakes it off. She actually likes the idea. Having Leximus under her wing means no one will dare mess with her again. She can stay in school, study, live comfortably, and train in peace. Leximus thanks her and swears to grow into someone worthy of that protection. She turns to thank Sion too, but he's already gone, slipped out without a word. He's done enough. Eren can handle what comes next, and now he finally understands why Leximus abandoned the Empire and defected to its enemy. It was because of Barrett. He was the reason she lost her mana, but now she hasn't lost it. So the question is, how powerful could she become with both sword skill and mana? Maybe strong enough to give even him a hard time. Still, that's a concern for another day. He's just been given his first mission as a member of the Mist. Earlier that morning, Hallmaster Sira handed him the target. A new assassination awaits. She'd already given him a hell of a first mission to start with. He's already stressing out, wondering how much worse it'll get from here. As he moves through the corridor, a sudden crash rips through the silence and part of the wall explodes outward. A massive figure steps out from the debris, towering and broad-shouldered. His first thought is that some kind of demon creature has broken into the academy. The guy calls out, asking if he's Scion Vert, the famous one with an S-rank body type, also the youngest in the Vert bloodline. Turns out he's not a beast at all, just another 11-year-old, Seth Chiharkin. Apparently, he's heard the stories. The kid who walked off the battlefield after fighting a dragon and lived to tell it. But the thing that really got his attention, the S-rank physique, a level even he couldn't reach. So now, he's shown up just to throw hands and see how he measures up. Scion finally spots the emblem pinned to his uniform and clocks where he's from, the Spia Empire, a desert-based nation tucked on the eastern edge of the continent. Back in his previous life, that place gave even the Ushif army trouble because of its brutal military led by none other than Seth himself. But for all its might, it still crumbled after the prince suddenly dropped dead from illness. Dude had built himself into a walking tank, but forgot to take care of the basics, like not dying. And now, here that same guy is, standing in front of him way earlier than expected. The timeline doesn't match. They weren't supposed to meet this soon. Fighting random children isn't on Sion's to-do list today, so he shuts it down. He says the academy doesn't allow street fights. If you want a duel, file it properly with the main office. Muscle mass clearly doesn't equal brain power because Seth bolts off in the completely wrong direction. Sion just watches him disappear and lets out a breath. Glad he won't have to deal with that walking dumbbell for a while. He's got a mission to focus on anyway. Out behind the academy, tucked away in a shadowy corner, two men are speaking. One's a knight, confirming that everything's ready to go. The other gives him the order to move. Deliver it to the buyer immediately. This man is Zickerman Albus, one of the richest three on the continent. On the surface, he looks like a saint, donating to charities and handing out cash like a hero. But in reality, the man's a monster, the kingpin behind the slave trade. He runs it, manages it, and even breeds creatures specifically to sell them off. Today, he's about to unveil the jewel of his twisted collection. He shouts at the staff to handle it with care. This one's his masterpiece. From the lack of guards, Sion figures this is probably the best chance he'll get for a clean hit. But just as he's about to move, Karum senses something odd, an energy she doesn't recognize. There's something unusual here. Something that isn't human. Albus, meanwhile, is too distracted, admiring his captives to notice anything wrong. Then it hits. A pressure in the air, and dark mist begins curling through the space. One of his attendants suddenly drops, his head gone in a flash. Before anyone even thinks to react, Sion's already sliced through the rest, silent and precise. In a matter of moments, every last bodyguard inside and out has been dealt with. Albus, now pale and shaking, begs for his life. He pulls out money like it's a shield, offering it desperately. Sion isn't impressed. He responds by severing his hand. For someone who's tortured and trafficked lives, built a business out of breeding and breaking others, death is the only sentence that fits. Still, he gives him 60 seconds to confess, say his piece, and go out without screaming. The man crumples, bawling. He knows how this ends. He starts ranting, saying he was just filling a need. It's the buyers who are the real villains, says the demands out there, and he's just the supply guy. Sion isn't moved. That pathetic excuse isn't even worth a reaction. He had a shot at redemption. Now he'll bleed for it. Sion opens him from the torso down, letting him wheeze and slowly slip toward death. Then he scans the room, hunting for whatever it was Karum had sensed earlier. She guides him toward one of the cages, where the energy feels different. Off, he rips the steel bars away. Inside, a woman lies limp, looking dead at first glance, but she's holding something tightly. Turns out she was clutching a dragon egg. He takes it with him. Back at their
fireplace. Brian sees it and immediately flips. How the hell did he end up with a dragon egg from the street? Sion brushes it off. He's not spilling anything. Besides, it's not like it matters. Dragons are basically mana given form, and unless someone can pump that egg full of magic, it's never going to hatch. As far as they're concerned, the thing might as well be a paperweight. But of course, right on cue, the moment he finishes that sentence, the shell starts cracking. To make things even stranger, what emerges from the egg isn't a dragon, but something in between a dragon and a human. This is already spiraling into something far more tangled than he ever expected. The little creature locks eyes with him and blurts out, "Papa." Without hesitation, she leaps onto him, clinging to his torso like she's found her long-lost father. He immediately turns to Karum, throwing blame her way for letting things end up like this, while she's doubled over in laughter. Back when the mission had ended, she was the one who urged him to keep the egg just to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands and being used. He argued it would never hatch anyway, not without its mother, and at this point, it was no more than a volatile rock. Turns out, he'd been completely wrong, and now they're stuck with a half-dragon kid and all the chaos she brings. The issue isn't just weird, it's massive. Her very existence is dangerous. Being a hybrid of dragon and human, she belongs to neither world. The Academy would purge her the moment they discovered her, just to preempt any potential disaster. As for the dragons, they're fanatical about keeping their lineage pure, and if they learn of her birth, they'll execute her.